Let's talk about passwords, password management, and something called multi-factor authentication for a moment. But before we get into all of that, I want everyone to pause this video right now and take a look at this comic on your screen. Go ahead and do that. Okay, now this takes a little bit to understand, but what I want everyone to notice and kind of pay attention to is what is being said here at the bottom of this page. Through 20 years of effort, we've successfully trained everyone to use passwords that are hard for humans to remember, but easy for computers to guess. Computers' processing speed grows at a very fast rate. And because of that, a 4 character password is trivial for a computer to guess. A computer can go through all 4 characters in a very fast time period. A way of testing that is a website called How Secure Is My Password? If I type in 4 random characters, you can see that it would take the average desktop PC less than a second to actually guess that. If I add a symbol in there and for a 5th character and then a capitalized letter. So we're now up to 6 characters, and it still takes under a minute for your average pass PC to guess that. Let's say 2 more characters, and now, okay, we're up to 8 characters, and now we're actually at a point in time which it is starting to become difficult for a PC to actually get to. But 3 days is still not a lot of time, and obviously, if you add a few more, the length of the password makes that much stronger. And so if we go back to the comic book or the comic page, what he's saying here is the importance of a password is not just the complexity, but also length. By making a password much longer, you are increasing the difficulty of guessing it at at an exponential rate. So using a passphrase rather than a password is a great way of starting to make yourself much more secure. So in the case of this comic, the idea is that the password would be um, correct horse battery staple. And 4 random words, but I guarantee you, because of the number of times that we talk about it and see it, you're going to have it memorized by the end of this class. So if we go back over here and I type in correct horse battery staple, look at how long that it actually takes that to process. And that's not hard to remember. It's very easy to remember, yet it would be very difficult for a PC to actually guess. So that's kind of the first step to doing passwords well is going for length. Now, a lot of websites, a lot of utilities still don't allow you to use really long passphrases. So you still need to use those 8, 9, 10, 12 character passphrases, and you still want to make them really complex by adding punctuation and capitalizations, things that we've been talking about in the computer industry for years. But you also want to have unique ones on different websites. The biggest way that a person gets an account compromised is by having their password compromised. And usually it's not Gmail that gets compromised. Usually it's some forum online or some random website where you used a password that you use multiple times in multiple places. Because it's compromised in one location, it's compromised on all of those locations. Because if you're using your email address taylorjudd at illinois.edu, and when I go to random web forum and I use taylorjudd at illinois.edu as my email address, and I use the same password at both locations, well, if the random web forum's compromised, well, so is my university's account as well. So using different passwords in different locations also is a great way of increasing your protection and privacy. Well, then you have a memorization problem. How do you keep track of all of those different passwords? Well, I'll teach you a trick. So if we go to up here, and I'm just going to use this area as a demonstration, if I type in correct horse battery staple, that would be easy to remember, but I don't want to use the same password on every location. So let's say it's Gmail. I'll just add in one more word, Gmail. Now it's completely unique. And I can use that at Gmail, and it's different than my other website. I could then go to the random web form and use correct horse battery staple on random web form. Or in this case, we could do it at Dell, or we could do it at U of I. And while I have the base password the same, it is unique to each website because I've added on some kind of description, yet I'm still able to remember that fairly easily. Now, even with these techniques for creating easy to remember complex passwords, we still highly recommend using a password manager of some kind. There are a few out here. This website in particular recommends something called RoboForm. There's another one out there called KeePass that is open source and is a very good website and password to use as well. I personally use one called LastPass. So LastPass is a password management tool that integrates into most web browsers. You can actually see right here is my LastPass icon. I've already installed it. I've already set it up to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and log in right now. So when I click that, I get prompted to log in. If you notice, I have a fairly complex password, and you're going to want to use that since that's going to be your main password here. Now, something special happens when I try to log into LastPass. I get prompted for an additional type of authentication. You notice up here it says YubiKey multi-factor authentication. What multi-factor authentication is the idea that you have to authenticate at a couple different levels. Um, Password is the first level. Everyone is used to using passwords. In multi-factor authentication, that is thought of as something that you know. So it is your password. It's something that you know in your mind that you type out everything that you knew. To do multi-factor, you have to have a second layer of that. And by that, I'm not talking Captivate or not Captivate, CAPTCHAs or security questions, because those are also things that you know. In the case of multi-factor, the first level is things that you know. The second level being is something that you have. So connected to my computer right now, I have a little device, looks just like that. It plugs directly into a USB port and has a little button right on the top of it. So this is something that I have in my possession. And in order to log into LastPass, not only do I have to type in my password, something that I know, but I have to plug in this USB device and then press that button, which enters in a secondary code. That then finally authenticates me into LastPass and allows me to access my LastPass vault, which contains a lot of my passwords to a lot of different websites. So multi-factor authentication in the case of my LastPass vault, even if someone were to get my password or compromise it in some capacity, they wouldn't be able to log in unless they also had that USB stick. Now, let's say I lost my USB stick. Well, that wouldn't compromise my account either because the person wouldn't know my password. So this is a good way of establishing that additional level of security. Now, YubiKeys and LastPass do cost a little money. The LastPass is free to use generally speaking, but to do multi-factor, you have to pay the subscription fee, which is, I believe, a few dollars a year. It's not terribly expensive. The YubiKeys themselves run somewhere between $20 and $50 just to purchase the device. There's no annual fee associated with that. But you don't have to necessarily pay to do that. If we actually go under Gmail, for example, Gmail offers multi-factor authentication that integrates with your phone, where after you log into Gmail, you will receive a text message that gives you that secondary authentication. So you must know your Gmail password, something that you know, and then you must have your cell phone to receive the text message, something that you have in order to actually get into Gmail, and that's something I've set up as well. That covers basically, so in summary, we have passwords. Start using passphrases. Longer is often better than more complex. Look at LastPass or a password manager and to take those longer complex passwords and manage them more effectively. And finally, consider enabling two-factor authentication on your important accounts, whether that's your password manager or things like Gmail or your bank or other locations that may allow for two-factor authentication.